Cold does not mean simple. On distant gas giants, many expect a stable script. Low temperatures. Slow chemistry. Orderly atmospheres. The assumption feels plausible because, for years, the models have worked well for Jupiter and Saturn, and because when the signal is faint, differences between scenarios blur into noise. Then a constraint appears that unsettles everything. On Epsilon Indi AB, hints emerge that are consistent with clouds of frozen water and with a lower ammonia content than expected. And suddenly, that script no longer holds. There is something about Epsilon Indi A flat that irritates our intuition. It is close enough to be observed in detail, yet cold enough to belong to the category many consider solved. The common reasoning is linear. If stellar radiation is weak, the atmosphere should be less agitated. If it is less agitated, stratification should dominate. If stratification dominates, certain molecules should settle where the model places them, and ammonia should leave clear signatures. It is the planetary version of the idea that in a quieter environment, everything becomes more predictable. The problem is that an atmosphere is never a motionless column. It mixes. It condenses. It hides. What we observe is not the atmosphere, but the layer from which light can escape. And that layer can change without the planet itself really changing. All it takes is a cloud. A veil of particles. A slightly different thermal gradient. When a telescope like the James Webb collects a spectrum, it is not taking a picture. It is reading a code. Each molecule absorbs and re-emits light in specific ways, but the strength of that signal depends on where the molecule sits, at what pressure, at what temperature, and, crucially, on whether something prevents light from crossing the deeper layers. A cloud works like a half-closed door. It does not merely add an aesthetic detail. It decides which rooms you can see and which you cannot. This is why the idea of frozen water clouds on a cold gas giant is more than an anomaly. Water, in these regimes, is a threshold. When it condenses, it changes phase. And when a substance changes phase, it brings with it two consequences that cleaner models struggle to make intuitive. The first is opacity. A population of ice particles can make the atmosphere more opaque at certain wavelengths, pushing upward the region we are actually observing. The second is dynamics. Condensation releases latent heat, alters the stability of layers, drives convective motions, and generates structures that are never perfectly uniform. In other words, frozen water is not just a molecule present. It is a mechanism that reorganizes the observable. If the clouds are high, we mainly see high altitudes. If we see high altitudes, we see lower temperatures. If we see lower temperatures, we also see a different chemical equilibrium. And if chemistry changes with height, then what seemed to be missing may simply be confined deeper down, below the boundary imposed by the clouds. Here ammonia enters the scene, the substance many had considered a reliable signature of cold giants. At low temperatures, ammonia should be stable and abundant in the gas phase, at least in a simple picture. But the simple picture rests on a hidden assumption that the atmosphere is close to local chemical equilibrium, and that the column of air we sample is representative of the planet. Both assumptions can fail. The first fails because of vertical transport. If air masses rise from deeper, warmer regions rich in certain compounds and then cool aloft, the chemistry does not always have time to adjust to the new equilibrium. Some reactions are slow. Some bonds are stubborn. The atmosphere can remain trapped in a non-equilibrium state, a dynamic snapshot of competing processes. In this scenario, the apparent abundance of ammonia aloft can differ from predictions, not because the planet contains less nitrogen overall, but because it is distributing and transforming it in a non-trivial way. The second assumption fails because of clouds and geometry. A planet can have patchy cloud cover, bands, vortices, regions with large particles and regions with thin hazes. The spectrum we receive is often an average, but an average is not neutral. It weights more heavily the brighter regions or those less obscured. It favors the zones that let radiation pass through. And so an observational paradox can arise. A planet with ammonia present but unevenly distributed can produce an overall signal that seems to indicate little ammonia. Not because ammonia is absent, but because the light reaching us comes mostly from regions where ammonia has been removed from the gas phase, or is simply invisible. And removed how, exactly? Here too reality is richer than intuition. Ammonia can condense under suitable conditions. It can take part in particle formation. It can bind into more complex compounds. It can become a component of aerosols, be sequestered into forms that no longer show the same spectral signature. And if, at the same time, water is forming clouds, the entire opacity budget shifts, and we end up observing layers that do not match those that, in a cloud-free or oversimplified model, would dominate the signal. At this point, the planet ceases to be a tidy example and becomes a system of feedbacks. Clouds that change the observed temperature. Observed temperatures that alter the interpreted chemistry. Interpreted chemistry that changes the simulated opacity. Simulated opacity that shifts the depth from which the model lets radiation emerge. In such a loop, a small modeling choice can move the conclusion significantly. And when a sensitive instrument tightens the constraints, that game becomes visible. It is no longer enough to say, at this temperature there should be ammonia. One must ask, at what altitude? Beneath which clouds? With what vertical mixing? With what particles? And with what thermal history? History, indeed. Because a cold gas giant is not just its current temperature. It is also the way it dissipates internal energy. Even far from its star, a planet can emit residual heat from its formation. That heat drives convection. Convection drives turbulence. Turbulence drives mixing. And mixing disrupts local chemical equilibrium. Thus, cold becomes an ambiguous word. It may be cold outside, but inside there is a slow thermal engine still at work. And that engine is enough to create meteorology, even if it does not resemble Earth's. Another factor that undermines predictability is how models treat clouds. And clouds are a scientific nightmare, not because they are mysterious in an absolute sense, but because they are microphysics. Particle sizes, shapes, composition, distribution, growth rates, sedimentation, fragmentation, aggregation. Every choice changes the opacity. Every change in opacity alters the spectrum. And when you observe a real world, the world does not conform to the most convenient microphysics. So the clues from Epsilon Indi Ab, taken together, are not an isolated curiosity. They are a crack in the belief that cold gas giants are the realm of routine. A cloud of frozen water, if truly present, suggests layers that are cold enough and saturated enough for water to solidify and build a veil. And a weaker ammonia signal suggests either that nitrogen chemistry is following a more complex path, or that our observational window has been shifted to a region where ammonia no longer dominates. The unsettling part is that both interpretations lead to the same practical conclusion. The atmosphere is more complex than expected, and that complexity is not an exception but an emergent property when you look closely enough. The temptation, at this point, is to look for a single cause. One culprit. An elegant explanation. But in a planetary system, elegant explanations are rarely unique. More often they're combinations. Clouds plus mixing. Clouds plus inhomogeneity. Mixing plus non-equilibrium chemistry. Non-equilibrium chemistry plus a slightly different thermal profile than expected. Each combination produces spectra that are similar in some bands and very different in others. This makes interpretation an inverse problem. From the signal you must reconstruct the world. But an inverse problem can have multiple solutions, and the only way to narrow them is to accumulate constraints, more wavelengths, greater precision, more observations at different times. Because if the atmosphere changes or if cloud cover rotates in and out of view, the spectrum can vary, and that variability becomes a key. And it is precisely here, as the story seems to move toward a diagnosis, that the unavoidable question arises. How much of the less ammonia is chemistry, and how much is the geometry of light filtered by clouds? Take that question seriously, and your perspective must change. You are no longer searching for a list of molecules. You're searching for the architecture of the atmosphere. You are asking where clouds form, how thick they are, what particles they contain, how quickly they settle, how they vary with latitude, and how rapidly they renew themselves. You are also probing the temperature profile with altitude, because in these regimes even a small difference can decide whether a substance remains a gas or becomes ice. And when a substance becomes ice, its presence in the gas phase can vanish precisely in the layer that controls the observed light. Chemistry becomes a game of apparent presence and absence, and observation becomes an exercise in patience, to determine whether what you do not see does not exist, or exists but cannot speak. If water forms clouds, for example, those clouds can act as a radiative roof. Beneath that roof, radiation is trapped longer, and the temperature can differ from what a more transparent model would predict. This alters stability. It alters convection. It alters mixing, and therefore the way ammonia and other compounds are transported. In such a regime, the atmosphere becomes stratified not only by gravity but by opacity. Light, in a sense, shapes the structure. And the structure shapes the light. It is a loop that makes predictability fragile. There is also a psychological dimension that gives this story its power for the public. On hot, strongly irradiated planets, everyone expects strangeness, extreme photochemistry, supersonic winds, dissociation, exotic compounds. So when a hot planet surprises us, we file it under normal surprise. But on a cold planet, surprise feels like an error, an anomaly that should vanish once the model improves. Yet nature does not work that way. Often, when the model improves, the surprise does not disappear. It changes form. It shifts. It becomes more specific. And it forces us to recognize that we had confused, less external energy, with fewer phenomena. A cold gas giant can have seasons if its axis is tilted. It can vary because clouds respond to subtle changes in energy flux. It can host atmospheric waves that concentrate and rarefy gases and particles. It can produce episodic storms that dredge up deep material, temporarily enriching the upper layers with compounds that are later removed or transformed. It can maintain persistent bands tied to rotation, segmenting the atmosphere into regions with different dynamics. Each region can have a different balance between chemistry and transport. If you observe everything at once, you see an average. But the planet does not live in the average. It lives in the differences. This is the point at which the details of epsilon Indi A flat become a rehearsal for the future. If we now learn that frozen water clouds and weak ammonia can coexist, we must learn to distinguish among scenarios. If vertical mixing dominates, we should expect other non-equilibrium signatures, perhaps in compounds linked to carbon or oxygen. If clouds dominate, we should expect the spectrum to change with rotation, or certain bands to be muted in ways consistent with particle microphysics. If it is a combination, we must accept that there is no single key, but a tangle of keys, and that the only way to unlock the door is through longer, more complete observations. And as you line up these possibilities, you understand why ammonia, once thought a simple signature, becomes a sophisticated probe. Its apparent absence is not merely a lack. It is information about optical depth, about the thermal profile, about equilibrium or non-equilibrium, about condensation and the kinds of particles that dominate. It is a signal that tells you are not looking where you thought you were looking. If cloud cover is thick, you may be seeing only the upper layers, where ammonia has already condensed or been removed. If the cover is patchy, you may be seeing a mix of deep windows and high roofs, and the combination can mimic an average composition that does not actually exist. If the chemistry is out of equilibrium, you may be seeing an atmosphere that retains the memory of deeper, hotter, or compositionally richer layers, and that memory can mask the direct link between local temperature and composition. In every case, the lesson is the same: a cold gas giant is not a passive object. It is a system that transports, condenses, and filters its own light. And so the initial, reassuring belief flips on its head. Models are not wrong because they are incompetent. They are wrong because they must simplify a system that is under no obligation to be simple. They must choose parameters that cannot be directly measured. They must assume uniformity where there may be bands. They must treat clouds as average layers where there may be three-dimensional architectures. For a long time, these choices went unpunished because the observational signal was too poor to distinguish among them. When the signal becomes richer, the differences emerge. And that richness is not a nuisance. It is the point. In the end, the appeal of this story lies in the fact that a cold world, one that should be routine, becomes a controllable enigma. Not an unsolvable mystery, but a problem you can attack with new constraints. If you find evidence of frozen water, you can ask where the condensation level sits and how thick the cloud is. If ammonia appears weaker, you can ask whether it has been sequestered, transformed, or simply hidden. You can compare scenarios with different metallicities, because the overall abundance of heavy elements affects which species dominate and how easily particles form. You can test different strengths of vertical mixing, because that parameter determines how far the atmosphere departs from equilibrium. You can search for temporal variability, because variability is often the clearest signature of clouds and inhomogeneity. Each step does not close the case. It sharpens it. In the end, epsilon indi A flat serves as a reminder. When we say predictable, we often mean we have not looked closely enough yet. A cold gas giant may seem quiet only because its complexity is distributed in depth, and the light it grants us has already been filtered by layers we cannot see. Yet that very filter, properly interpreted, becomes a detector. It tells us where transparency ends and opacity begins. It tells us which region of the atmosphere dominates the signal. It tells us which molecules get a voice and which remain silent. And the story does not end here, because the most interesting part is that this complexity is not rare. It is what we should expect, more and more, as instruments improve. Each time we increase sensitivity, we shrink the space in which a model can hide its assumptions. Each time we extend observations across more wavelengths, we force the planet to reveal more layers. Each time we measure more precisely, we discover that cold was just a word, not a guarantee. And one day, when we have catalogs of spectra from cold giants around many stars, we will look back on this phase as the moment we stopped thinking of cold gas giants as easy worlds, and began to treat them for what they truly are: deep, stratified, meteorologically active atmospheres, capable of building clouds of frozen water and, in the same gesture, making ammonia disappear precisely where we expected to find it. If you have made it this far, it means you value curiosity as much as we do. If you enjoyed this journey, leave a like, write a comment, and subscribe to the channel. It is the best way to support what we do. Your presence truly makes a difference. See you on the next exploration.